It's Elizabeth, Countess of Shopping, and I have an amazing guest today with our GLP-1 dietitian. I'm so excited to introduce you to Darby. We're going to be talking all about Mounjaro foods to eat, Mounjaro what I eat in a day, and all the things Mounjaro. So welcome, Darby, to the show. I'm so glad to have you here.
Having me I've been looking forward to this all weekend. On a Monday, this is the best way to start my day. I love it.
Me too. So let's go ahead and dive in. I would love to talk about what is the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist.
Yes. I mean, I've got some great friends that are nutritionists and really offer good support in other areas, but I really believe on a GLP-1 medication, there's so many intricacies of being on the medication and long-term effects and goals. So I think it's really important to work with a credentialed professional, clinician, dietitian, a great care team. So I'm an RD. I've got 1,200 hours of nutrition practice in many settings. I've got a license. I've been to school for this. I have a master's degree. So again, I feel it's very important to find someone you trust that knows a lot about the medication and work with a dietitian.
I love it. I love it. And when I was seeking out with having lost 68 pounds from Mounjaro weight loss, how can I continue to improve my health and wellness journey? Finding somebody with credentials like yours. So I'm so excited to share with our friends at home more about, and I got a ton of questions. So let's dive in and get to the answer, because I know so many people in my Mounjaro free encouragement group said, okay, what are the Mounjaro best foods to eat? What should we be eating on Mounjaro?
Okay, so I really like to look at it from a broad perspective, and everybody's going to be unique. I know Elizabeth and I had a call last week, I think it was, and we really talked about the specifics for you and your height and your weight and your goals, but we really like to focus on the protein of the plate. This is really important while we're on a GLP-1 medication to really prevent the muscle wasting. We don't want the hair loss as we've seen everywhere. We want to maintain a healthy metabolism. So I really like to focus on protein, but we don't want to forget carbohydrates and vegetables and fiber and fat, all very important, but in the correct ratios. And I'm sure we'll get into talking about, the plate that we'll break down that a little bit more a little bit later. But I really like to see lean protein. So we're going to be talking like Greek yogurt, chicken, lean cuts of meat. So maybe more like a 90-10 or a 97-3 ground beef. We want to see that fat content a little bit lower. So leaner is better. I really like to focus on those.
When we had our call, it was so helpful for me because with Mounjaro, I mean, there's side effects, right? If people and our friends who are on WEGOVY and Ozempic and semaglutide weight loss and tirzepatide weight loss, lumping them into this conversation as well. But I used to do keto with high fat foods. And when we shared, I was like, oh, I'm having a steak or having like a ribeye. I can't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore because of the Mounjaro side effects of gastrointestinal issues.
But I do want to encourage others like watching, and I know we're talking about fat content, like there's definitely certain times, as we talked about, that it's important to be mindful of your fat content. And you may find that you're an individual that tolerates the fat a little bit better than others, which is why it's really hard to give such a specific answer to a broad audience of you all. That, maybe Elizabeth can eat a steak at certain times, but whenever she's increasing her dose, for example, she's not sure how her body's going to react to the medication. So she wants to be mindful of the fat content around that dose increase time, or when she's giving herself the shot or the injection, what that looks like. So I promise steak is not gone forever. We do want to take an all foods fit approach, but you're definitely right. Like what works for you may not work for somebody else, and knowing those things, but we don't want you to cut out everything, so it's very specific, but you are right.
Yeah. And I think that's what's been so interesting with this process is everyone's different, but also we're if people are coming from a Mounjaro weight loss standpoint of having an unhealthy relationship with food, and in addition to healing the body, healing that unhealthy relationship with food, which leads me to my next question, which I'm very curious your answer, which is Mounjaro foods to avoid. What would you encourage with that if someone has an unhealthy relationship with food or not?
Right. So that really is a broad question. So someone that has an unhealthy relationship with food, I do want to preface, like I say 25 to 30% of what we do or what I do with my clients is really going to be around the specific food you eat. We're going to spend a lot of other time also unpacking maybe how we got to this needing the medication in the first place, and maybe what habits in the past have contributed to maybe the gain over several years. And then you get to the point where you just are frustrated and don't know what to do. So maybe with someone that has an unhealthy relationship with food and has struggled with binge eating and other things in the past that have contributed to this, we want to be really careful about saying like, do not eat X, Y, and Z. My goal is to help you learn how to eat the foods that you have enjoyed in the past and to not feel guilty about it. And as I said about Halloween, like, eat some candy, but it's one day. It's one day. You mess up, move on. I mean, I know that's hard to grasp, but like Elizabeth, I'm sure you could concur. Like if you've had a bad meal, like you may have gotten down on yourself maybe and felt discouraged, but like, I want you to forgive yourself, give yourself grace, know you're human and move on, but also know that it's okay to crave foods. Like that's a normal part of being a human. I mean, I was talking with everyone on the group call last week about Thanksgiving, for example. If you go into Thanksgiving and you eat what you want to, like, we're going to prepare you to eat well. It's one meal out of maybe 1,000 you'll have in a year. So it's okay. But anyways, we don't want to restrict as someone that has had an unhealthy relationship with food. So for example, my daughter and I get donuts every Friday. It's what we do. She's one, like food is fun for her. We're discovering and learning new things. So I'll take some donut holes. I'll put them on a plate. I'll have some scrambled eggs with them and like a little bit of like a green salad. So I'm still enjoying the donut holes. I didn't take those away, right? So I'm adding in protein and it's more about what we add in than what we take away. Foods to maybe go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I saw one of your posts on your awesome Instagram account. I want everyone to go follow Darby on Instagram. What's your handle, by the way, on Instagram?
Yes, it's at the GLP1 Dietitian. Dietitian spelled with a T instead of a C. So it's Dietitian that way.
Love it. And I'll link it down on the description link below for everybody. So you had on Instagram, and it was so motivating to me. It was a Greek yogurt with a Reese's cup on the sprinkle. And for me, it was such an amazing reframe. Like, oh, you can have enjoy the Reese's cup with some additional protein on there. It was so helpful. I love that suggestion.
Yes. And like, it's just about adding, it's more about what you want to add instead of taking away. So I want you to enjoy food. That's my goal as a dietitian. It's not necessarily focusing on habits that are just going to make you successful on the medication. I want you to be successful for life. Like this drug is giving you the chance to change your life and to fall in love with your health and to fall in love, as Elizabeth says, with the data. She loves the data. So we want to look at all the data and see what that's really doing for you and falling in love with your health again. Maybe some foods to be mindful of on the GLP-1 medication would be things like alcohol, as our body metabolizes it a little bit slower than normal. So you may want to be really mindful of the amount of alcohol, which we're talking about in my group program right now. Alcohol during the holidays. I know that's a hot topic right now. I have a client preparing for a cruise next year, so we're tackling that a little bit early. And then we also want to be mindful of caffeine intake, sugary food intake, and high fat intake. Everything else, we're good in moderation, but it's just about being mindful of the amounts of those foods we eat and listening to our bodies and how they react. So maybe you eat a little bit more and you find that it's okay and it doesn't upset your stomach as far as the side effects go. So yeah.
What is going back to the Mounjaro with alcohol? What do people? I don't drink, but for people who do, I never have encouragement because I'm like, I never have drank. Like I don't. So, but what do people do who do? What's the encouragement for that?
I think a lot of people think that their craving for alcohol is just kind of going to go away being on the medication. Everyone's different, and some people have experienced a decrease in wanting that, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to go out with friends or have that social pressure of wanting to drink. So I always encourage, find a good mocktail recipe. Don't be afraid to boss your bartender, tell them what you need, tell them what you want. But I think it's important to know that your body metabolizes alcohol at 1 ounce per hour without the medication. So think about how much slower that is as your gastric emptying is slower as time goes on. So your body really is going to be at maybe more of a buzz state of alcohol much longer, especially if you drink more. So we want to be sure that we're drinking at a very moderate level. So for women, that's 1 drink. For men, that's 2. And if you know you're going to consume more alcohol, try to eat a little bit of protein and carbohydrate along with that and pace yourself in between drinks. Maybe eat a little bit of something to keep that gastric emptying and the alcohol digesting all at one time. So there are ways to do it. Again, we don't want to take an all or nothing approach, but it is important to know how to consume alcohol healthily on the medication.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So if we were going to go, and I love, by the way, and I'm reframing this in my brain of falling in love with my health, or for falling in love with your health. I love that. Like, I love that reframe of this of, I really do. I'm going to post that on my mirror in my bathroom, because I think that that's such a helpful reframe of, it's not just about the weight. And for type 2 diabetics, it's the whole overall encompassing health component of it, and falling in love with that process and journey.
Yes. And like, you know, I always pose this question. It's not a race to get to your goal weight. You know, it's not about just reaching a weight and then it's the end game. To me, like, this medication is, Elizabeth and I have talked about this, what it means to her personally, and for myself as well. You know, it's about our children and giving them the framework to see us have a healthy relationship with food and to fall in love with our health, so that they can see, like, mom loves to walk the dog every day, and we love to be outside, and we love to eat some candy. Like, look, I'm a dietitian. This is my household. We just had Halloween candy like back here. It's from my daughter's trick-or-treating. But you know, like, it's okay to have a normal household where we have good relationships with food. We're active, and our kids see that. So I really love to reframe, like, what is the purpose of being on this medication? It's so much bigger than that. Wouldn't you say, Elizabeth?
For sure. For sure. It's family and being here for my grandkids, literally, and my future grandbabies. God, not for a long time, but those future grandbabies, like, I want to be an active grandma when like that time comes, and I don't want to be wheelchair bound or not even be here. Like, so having these, like, for me, it's deep, deep, deep. And I know for a lot of our counts and countesses out there, this is deep, deep, deep. It's not just about superfluous, oh, I want to lose some weight or whatever. And God bless if those are people who are on the medication, that is their sole goal. But for me, in our Countess shopping community, it is deeper than that. It's not just about like superficial stuff.
And it may be another number. Maybe it's not weight. It's okay to be mindful of a A1C number or cholesterol. You know, we want to be healthy, and those are good markers to look at, which are also a great benefit of the medication. But weight loss is just a byproduct. It's not the end all be all health number that is going to tell you that you were successful on the medication. And maybe another thing we want to talk about is your goal weight may not be the best weight. You know, I'm not going to be 110 pounds like I was in high school. It's just not going to happen. It's not healthy for me. I've had a child. It's not healthy for my hormones. So, like, me thinking that is what is best for me doesn't mean it's what's best for my body. So I think reframing, like, what is goal weight? Like, what does that look like? What does maintenance look like? That's something I'm really taking the time to go through with each of my clients. Like, for Elizabeth, like, your end game or your maintenance may be different than mine. Maybe it's just a lab number that you want to get to and necessarily not a weight. It's different for everybody.
For sure. So you have an amazing membership. Can you share with us what that looks like? What is that?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I'm very passionate about you women in the group, and they're wonderful. I leave every call feeling so encouraged. It's called the GLP1 Girls Guide. And it's all about just empowering women. We have an amazing community. We're talking nutrition. We're talking side effects. We're talking all the nuances of being on a GLP-1 medication, even how to talk to your family about being on the GLP-1 medication. It's support, recipes. I mean, you name it, we go through it. We talk about stress and supplements and sleep, all the S's, as I like to say. We're even tackling things like, there's a whole module like what to do if you just don't feel like eating. You know, there are things that you're going to experience that maybe on your loading dose you didn't experience on 2.5 that you're going to experience on 7.5 or 10, right? Elizabeth, you probably have seen a difference as things have increased for yourself, right? So just a lot of, you know, tackling those topics, but planning for long term. We're not getting in there. We don't know what maintenance is going to look like for every individual. I cannot predict the future, neither can you. We can have every intention of getting to the goal or the end of maintenance, whatever that is for you, and deciding that you think you can just get off the medication. That may not be the reality for everyone. I hope it is. But, you know, whatever that looks like, we want to prepare you in the best way possible. So my goal is to basically be your tour guide on the GLP-1 and make your experience and your knowledge and your confidence in yourself and your journey the best it can be. So that's what we really do in membership.
And I love that with your 1,200 hours and your master's degree. I mean, these big credentials for me, that's why I bought my group membership. I bought my group membership because I'm like, I don't know this. I don't go to a dentist without teeth. I'm not going to take food advice from somebody who doesn't have massive credentials in this topic. And so I'm a member. We've been very gracious with the Countess of Shopping community to give a discount code, which is linked down in the description link below. I would love I'll be in the group. I am a group member in there. I am listening. I'm actively taking notes, and and I love it. I highly recommend it to all of our counts and countesses too. Let's talk about what's an example, taking a right turn, of a fast meal. If people have enriched busy lifestyles, I mean, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I own multiple businesses. What is a great example of a quick fast meal for somebody?
Okay, are we going to be talking like out to eat, or are we going to be talking maybe in the kitchen?
Can we do both?
Yes. So I love to encourage my clients to kind of build, you have like a capsule wardrobe. What about a capsule pantry or fridge? So, you've got your basics of your wardrobe. You've got like your black jeans, your white button-up shirt, your denim jacket, whatever that looks like for you. We want to have the backbone of our pantry and our refrigerator. So I like to encourage my clients, like, let's pick 5 proteins, 5 carbohydrates, 5 fats, and 5 vegetables that you keep on hand at all times. We're going to mix and match those. And it doesn't have to be complicated. We don't have to make these 10, 15 ingredient recipes. If you like to cook, that's great. But for people like Elizabeth and I, we're busy mamas. We're on the go. We've got husbands that need us and families and extracurriculars. I saw your son was at soccer, like a lot going on, right? So I would recommend, probably like my go-to is a wrap. I know that's really crazy, but it's a non-cook thing that you can make a lot of ways. So sometimes for me, that's like taking the leftover, like maybe Thai chicken I made with like a little bit of slaw mixture and like a good dressing and rolling it up in a tortilla and eating it. Or you could do like a Caesar chicken wrap, that's really super easy and simple. So you take what you've already cooked and make something new out of it. So that can be really simple. So you've got your protein, your veggies, and your good carbohydrate, and you're rolling it up and you're taking it on the go. So that's something I love to make.
So I can pole vault over a mouse turd and get really like fixated on. So for the wrap, to clarify, should it be a lettuce wrap? Should it be a whole tortilla? Should it be a low carb tortilla? What should it be?
Yes, great question. I actually have a post about this, and it's all about like what tortillas are best. We could do lettuce wrap if that's what you're feeling and that's what you want to do. Great. Then you could add, maybe a little bit of something else for a carbohydrate, or eat something on the side as a carbohydrate. Like maybe, Elizabeth, this is great. So maybe you want like some Cheetos. I don't know if like that's your chip of choice. Like maybe somebody just craves a chip or salt. Eat like a serving of that on the side with a lettuce wrap and all your meat. So like you're kind of learning to add in things. So lettuce will be great in that instance. Maybe we need more carbohydrates. So we are going to go more of like the whole wheat.
Sorry, my brain's processing. I don't mean to interrupt. I know it's so rude.
You're good.
You said a lettuce wrap with some chips on the side?
Yeah. So like you're taking the carbohydrate and putting it elsewhere. So you're learning to substitute. Yeah. So let's say you're going to take like chicken Caesar, for example, and you want to kind of make that. So you can take, or like maybe just a deli wrap of some sort. Like I love the Unwich from Jimmy John's, for example. Like that's kind of a fast food version, but you can take your meat and veggies and sauces or whatever and roll it up in lettuce wrap. And then you're kind of learning that I can eat, some chips on the side. And that's a great substitute for satisfying maybe the craving of the saltiness. I know this is a different topic, but that's a great way to like add in the chips. So does that make a little bit more sense there?
I don't know why I'm so afraid of that. It sounds delicious and amazing. I feel like I won't be able to control myself. Like I'll eat the whole bag or whatever. Like I won't have self-control around that.
Yeah, but think about maybe in the instance where you're craving the chip and then you decide to eat carrots instead with your lettuce wrap.
Word.
You sound satisfied? No. So then you're maybe go eat like 2 or 3 bags of the individual chips, or maybe half the bag. So it's all about like reframing your mindset. And you may not do it perfectly the first time. It's okay. Like we're going to learn in baby steps, right? So it's all about learning like to not ignore the craving or to try to satisfy it with something else, and maybe eating like the baked version of the Cheeto instead, or whatever that looks like. But, back to the tortilla, for example, we talk about fiber quite a bit, and that's maybe an under talked about topic, or a less discussed topic. And I don't really necessarily love the carb counter tortillas for all of my clients, because some of them have some constipation issues on the GLP-1 medication. Too much fiber can cause the constipation if we're not hydrated properly. So your tortillas can have upwards of like 20 to 25 grams of fiber in one sitting in those carb counter tortillas, depending on the brand. I do like the extreme wellness ones, though. I'm not sure if you've had those. Those are like a lower carb option. But like the Mission carb counter tortillas are pretty high in fiber. So if you do have that and that's what you choose, that's a personal preference. But we want to be mindful of like the tortilla that we use. So those little things do add up, which is why it's so important to talk with your dietitian.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So what if you have, what if you have picky kids? I get this all the time. And feel free, friends, put down in the comments down below your questions for the GLP dietitian. Make sure that you do put your questions down for Darby, because we may have her back. There's a lot of questions. We may have her back for part 2 if people are having more questions to ask. Because I know in our Mounjaro encouragement group, there was a lot. So if you have picky kids, what do you do with picky kids while you're trying to like balance all of these things in a new way of healthier eating while making this a permanent lifestyle with picky kids that you're just trying to get some dinner on the table?
Yes. And as someone with a 1-year-old that's learning to really eat and a picky husband, I can understand like he's not really a vegetable eater. My daughter is getting better at it. She's learning. But I would encourage you to not be afraid. I'd never want to say make an extra meal. Like it's not worth you suffering through a salad while your family eats pasta. This is what's important for you as Elizabeth to know what you need to do to make that meal work for you. So don't be afraid to make the pasta for the Count and the Duke, as you call your son. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. But maybe you make like a protein version of that pasta. So, you know, that like Berea, I think is how you say the brand, has a protein pasta. So maybe you make that simple swap. So, and you can't even notice the difference. My husband's very picky and he notices everything, doesn't notice that. So maybe you make that simple swap. You have marinara. Maybe your serving of pasta is a little bit smaller. And then you have a great serving of like grilled chicken or meatballs or ground beef with that. So you've got great protein. And then you eat some green beans on the side. So your plate is balanced. Your kids are still eating what they love. Your husband's eating what they love. And you're learning to kind of adjust your plate just a little bit and using those ratios to your advantage. So
one
I
of
don't
the
know.
things I love about what you talk about is slight modifications. Like it's
Yeah,
not this, when we had our call together, my heart was so relieved because it wasn't these huge changes. It was just slight, like just slight tweaks on things.
And you know, we talk a lot about breaking down old habits. I know you and I had that conversation about specifically keto and learning like maybe it worked for you for a while. It's worked for many people. And I'm not here to tell you that these things don't work, but are they sustainable? Do you want to never be able to eat bread again? Do you want to never be able to enjoy carbohydrates or look at sugar and just be attested by it? Like you want to have a good relationship with food in this journey. And that's my goal for you, Elizabeth, is to come out on the other end with that. So I think keeping that in mind through your journey is so important.
Yeah, I love low carb. I love low carb, but for me, keto, and I know I'm going to get a ton of, for me, keto, I was not able to make it sustainable during the pandemic, which is why I've kind of shifted over to more low carb stuff.
And you know, that's a great, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you know, like the low carb, for example, that could be very sustainable, especially for my ladies on PCOS and insulin resistance. Like there are definitely very specifics to adjusting this diet on a GLP-1 medication for you to last forever. So I think like you bringing that up is really important because maybe that does work a little bit better with like insulin resistance that you experience prior to being on the medication and to knowing these things. So I'm with you on that. I think that that's why this journey is specific to Elizabeth and Darby and all the other ladies in the program. So I totally am with you on that.
We're getting near the end of time, but I do have to squeeze this in because it was overwhelmingly asked. What does one do when the food noise or food chatter does return? For me, I have a multiple part series talking about this, and in our group, we're talking about it. So many people are having it. Of what do you do when the food chatter and food noise comes back?
I think that this is why we have to do the inner work on the GLP-1 medication. And my favorite phrase is to say that this is not the golden answer, but it is the golden tool. So the reason we stop dieting or whatever that looks like for you to begin with, is because it's not easy enough. We're not seeing the results we want to see, so we quit. And so I'm not saying it's because you didn't have enough willpower by any means, but it is discouraging if you're doing everything that the influencers say you're supposed to and you're not seeing the results. And so, you know, we want to get to a place on the medication where we're using it as a tool. So we're going to do the work the inner work. So now Elizabeth's on Mounjaro. She's learning the tools now on the medication so that whenever maybe that food noise creeps back slowly on the medication, she's like, you know what? I remember what Darby taught me. I remember that all foods can fit. I remember that I'm craving chips and that's normal. So to not ostracize yourself and to make yourself feel not proud of who you are and your decisions and your body, that's why falling in love with your health is so important. Falling in love with your journey is so important because we want to be able to trust our bodies. Our bodies are good and they've been made that way for a reason. And maybe cravings are an underlying issue for other things we need to look into, like mineral deficiencies and things like that. So they're not things to be ignored, where if it's overbearing, we need to dig deeper into that, obviously. But again, working on your mindset and doing the work now is going to make it so much easier for Elizabeth. Maybe in a year when you're at maintenance and you're like, I've got the tools, or you can revisit those tools. And it doesn't mean you won't struggle, but you're going to learn. It's almost like going through, I don't know if this is a good comparison, but like maybe you've gone through a 12-step AA program, for example, and you're cold turkey. And now you're out in the world and you're back at places maybe like the bar where it's tempting, or maybe you're back at, a group of friends that tempted you in a way, and you're not sure, but you've learned these tactics, and like, I know what to do. Like, I've prepared myself. Like, I'm ready for this. Like, I'm going to be okay. I can do this. I have somebody I can call. I can ask Darby. She's here for me. My community is here for me. So that's why we do all the work now.
I love it. I love it. Mr. Freddie loves it too. He's so relaxed. He's like, I'm just going to roll over on my back. I'll cover his little bits and pieces. They're going to put my head right there. We have reached the end of our time. Do you have time for one more question? Are you available for one more question? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I love that you talked about the capsule, like how we have capsule wardrobe, having a capsule pantry, and for capsule pantry and capsule fridge. My brain went in overdrive with excitement. Like, I'm so excited about this. So what would be some examples for a capsule pantry and a capsule fridge? And we can make that the last question.
Yes. Okay. So I'll go over maybe like 5 of each of my favorites of maybe. So protein in my fridge, I'll just give you an example of what we always keep. We keep chicken breast, which I know everyone's like, roll your eyes, but there's so many things you can do with it and not be eating like a huge chicken breast. Like, we can do it. It's very versatile, takes on flavor easily, and it's quick and easy to eat. I always keep chicken thighs as well. It's a fattier option, but it tastes better. It's good. We keep some sort of ground meat at all times. I love the chomp sticks. That's my favorite protein snack to go to. So it's like a snack stick, 9 grams of protein. It's very lean. And then I love to keep Greek yogurt because I can put it in smoothies. And I also love a cottage cheese. That's controversial for many people, but you can make it into mini sauces, blend it up. If you hate the texture, put it in your blender, blend it up. Cottage cheese texture no more. So those are my favorite proteins to keep in my fridge personally. Favorite carbohydrates. I love to keep rice. We actually are, where I live, it's called the rice capital of the world. We like farm rice. My family are rice farmers. So we keep a lot of rice in our fridge or in our pantry. Just a fun fact about me. Potatoes. Don't be scared of potatoes. I love a soup potato, and I love just a regular white potato. They're not something to be afraid of. It's what you do with the potato that I think contributes to the thought that it's bad. So we don't have to fry it. We can bake it. We can cut it up and roast it with some olive oil and seasoning. So I love that. I love to keep some cereals on hand to put together with our yogurts and things like that. So I think that's for olive oil, avocados. Those are great options for fat. Olives, those are a great option for fat. Those are just some things that I like to keep that are pretty quick to pair with meals. And then, of course, vegetables, whatever veggie you choose. I love frozen because it's easy, because I never know what my toddler's going to be in the mood for. So.
I love it. I love it. I'm so excited to make my capsule pantry and capsule fridge. And I would love for viewers, put down below in the comments, your question of the day is, what is going to be your capsule pantry items and capsule fridge items? Because I feel like the more comments we have with this, the more we're all going to get ideas off of it too. Make sure, and we have a little thing at Countess of Shopping of, if you've made it this far in the video, we do emojis, and that's how I see you. I will pray over you, or if you don't believe in prayer, send positive encouragement. So today's emoji is going to be anything orange, and I'll know that you watched this far in the video. And make sure to get the free Mjarro weight loss encouragement success checklist down below. And Darby, where can we find you? If people want to go find more about you, they're like, oh my gosh, I want a part 2, and I want people to tell me that in the comments too. But where can they go find you?
Yes. So Instagram is your best bet, the GLP-1 Dietitian. And there you can message me. My DMs are always open to questions you have, and I'm an encourager. I'm never going to pressure you to join the group. I think it's the best place to be. But if you have just a simple question or need some guidance, I'm here for you. So feel free to message me. There's also a link in my bio, and I know that Elizabeth will have the link down below. It's probably the quickest way for you to be able to sign up. If you're interested in the membership, that'll be the best place for you to go. It's Elizabeth's I guess the description down below this video will be the best place to go.
With the code, make sure you use the code friends so you get that extra discount too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the best place to go.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. And this was amazing. I didn't even get through all my questions too. So
part two. We'll have to have a part two at some point then.
I would love that. I would love that. My friends, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I'm Countess of Shop and count my blessings because life is delicious. Thanks so much. Thank you so much.